hash hash, asterisk, asterisk. The millionaire who learned the hard way part 1, asterisk, asterisk, in the quiet heart of Vermont, where winter mornings looked like postcards, and summer nights smelled of pine and warm soil. There lived a man whose name everyone knew, but whose story few truly understood. His name was Leonard Hale, a man who built an empire from the ground up. But along the way, built walls just as high around his own heart. By the time Leonard turned 50, he had more than most people could even imagine. Real estate spread across 5 states, a private jet, a mansion overlooking a lake so still it reflected the sky like polished glass. To the outside world, he was the image of success. To magazines, he was a visionary. To investors, he was untouchable. But to the people who worked for him, who lived near him, or who had ever crossed his path, he was something else entirely. He was cold, dismissive, detached from the world that had helped him rise. His assistants feared his sharp tone. His neighbors avoided his gaze. His own family barely spoke to him anymore. Leonard believed kindness made a man weak, and that trust was just another word for vulnerability. He lived moving forward, never looking back, never pausing long enough to notice anyone else. But stories like his always reach a breaking point. And Leonard's came on a night he never saw coming. It was late autumn, and the air carried that silent heaviness that comes before snow. Leonard was driving back from a meeting in Boston, irritated by the delays, frustrated with everyone he had encountered that day, and entirely unaware that fate was arranging a lesson for him with careful, deliberate hands. Halfway down a narrow rural road, the car's engine sputtered. He cursed under his breath, gripping the wheel, pressing the accelerator as if money itself could force the vehicle back to life. But the car rolled to a stop. The engine went dead. The headlights flickered and faded, leaving him in a darkness thick as ink. His phone had only 3% battery, no signal. His expensive winter coat was in the trunk, and the temperature was dropping fast. Leonard stepped out onto the cold pavement, breath fogging in the air. Behind him stretched miles of forest. Ahead, nothing but dark road and silence. He was a millionaire, but in that moment, money meant absolutely nothing. He couldn't buy warmth. He couldn't buy light. He couldn't buy a way out. He started walking. After nearly an hour, exhausted and freezing, he saw a faint glow in the distance. A cabin small, old, with smoke drifting from its chimney. Light spilled from one window like a warm invitation, though to Leonard it felt like an intrusion. He wasn't used to needing anyone, and he certainly wasn't used to asking for help. He knocked on the door, and that's when he met the man who would change everything. The door opened slowly, revealing an older man with silver hair, rough hands, and eyes that looked as though they carried entire lifetimes of quiet wisdom. He wore a simple sweater and held a cup of steaming tea. "Car trouble?" the man asked gently. Leonard nodded, stiff and reluctant. "Come in. It's cold out there." Leonard hesitated. People didn't invite him in. He didn't accept favors. But the cold pushed him inside. The cabin was warm, simple, filled with the scent of burning wood and something cooking on the stove. The old man handed him a blanket. "I'm Samuel," he said. "Most folks around here just call me Sam." Leonard didn't offer his name. He felt no need. But Sam simply smiled, as though he expected nothing. "I'll call a tow truck," Sam said, picking up an old landline. "They don't work fast at this hour, but they'll come." Leonard finally spoke. "I can pay extra. Tell them I'll cover." Sam raised a hand. "They'll come when they come. Money won't speed up the snow." Leonard's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to hearing no. But in Sam's presence, the word didn't feel like defiance, it felt like truth. As the hours passed, Sam served him warm soup, offered him dry socks, and asked him nothing in return. He didn't want a signature. He didn't want a photo. He didn't even seem to care who Leonard was. And for reasons he didn't understand, that unsettled Leonard more than anything. "Why are you helping me?" Leonard finally asked. Sam looked at him for a long moment. "Because someone once helped me," he said quietly, "and I promised myself I'd pass it on." Leonard wanted to scoff. Promises were for sentimental people. But something in Sam's voice made him pause. Throughout the evening, Leonard observed the cabin. There were photographs on the wall. Sam as a young man with a woman who must have been his wife. Pictures of what looked like a daughter at various ages, smiling brightly. But the newer photos were fewer. The laughter in the early images didn't carry into the later ones. Loss lived quietly in that home. When Sam stepped outside to add wood to the pile, Leonard found himself looking at the photographs again. One in particular caught his attention. Sam standing beside a younger man wearing army fatigues, both smiling under a flag. Before he could study it further, Sam returned. "That's my son," Sam said softly. "His name was Daniel." Was Leonard swallowed? "He passed away." Sam nodded. 2 years ago. The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortably at least. Not for Sam. Leonard felt something unfamiliar in his chest, something he hadn't allowed in years. "You live alone?" Leonard asked. "Yes," Sam replied. "But I'm not lonely." "How can you not be?" Sam smiled faintly. "Because loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about losing connection. My son always believed the purpose of a life is to touch another life. As long as I keep doing that," he exhaled softly, "he's still here in a way." Leonard felt his throat tighten, but he didn't know why. The tow truck didn't arrive until almost midnight. When Leonard stood to leave, he took out his wallet and pulled out a thick stack of bills. "Here," he said. "For everything." Sam raised his eyebrows. "You think I helped you because of money?" "It's payment," Leonard insisted. Sam shook his head. "Kindness isn't a transaction. Keep your money. But take this instead." He handed Leonard a small, worn book. The cover was fading, the edges cracked. "What is this?" Leonard asked. "It was my son's journal," Sam said. "Read the last entry." Leonard hesitated but opened the book. The final page was written in a hand that trembled slightly, as though written through pain. Asterisk, "If I ever learn anything worth passing on, let it be this. A man's wealth is measured not by what he keeps, but by what he gives. The world remembers kindness long after it forgets success." Asterisk. Leonard froze. Sam's voice broke the silence. "You can return the book when you're ready," he said. Leonard didn't answer. Something inside him shifted a crack in the armor he had built his whole life. When he finally stepped into the cold night air, the world felt different. Or maybe he did. But this was only the beginning. Because the universe wasn't finished teaching him. And the greatest lesson of his life was still to come. If this story touched you, imagine how many others could feel the same. Share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and spread the message. Asterisk, asterisk. True wealth begins the moment we choose kindness. Asterisk, asterisk. Hash. Asterisk, asterisk. The Millionaire Who Learned the Hard Way. Part 2. Asterisk, asterisk. Leonard. Hale barely slept the night after meeting Sam. Even in the comfort of his mansion where the heating was perfect. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, and silence wrapped around everything like velvet. His mind refused to settle. He lay awake, replaying scenes he couldn't forget. The warmth of the cabin, the softness in Sam's voice, and the final entry in Daniel's journal. It lingered in his thoughts like a whisper he couldn't silence. A man's wealth is measured not by what he keeps. He turned over in bed, annoyed by his own restlessness. He wasn't a sentimental man. Emotions were distractions, and distractions slowed you down. That was what he always believed. Yet something about Sam's world, small, humble, filled with heart, had unsettled the empire. Leonard built on ego and deficiency. The next morning, Leonard walked into his office, a 30-story glass building overlooking the city. He expected to slip back into routine, but instead, everything felt strangely hollow. The polite greetings of employees echoed through corridors like empty rehearsed lines. The quiet clicks of keyboards sounded mechanical and lifeless. Even the city skyline, usually a satisfying display of his achievements, felt distant. His assistant, Meredith, knocked on the door. "Good morning, Mr. Hale. You have a meeting at 10 with the real estate team. Lunch with the mayor at 1. And what's the meeting about?" She blinked, startled. The Riverside project. "And why are we demolishing the community housing there?" Meredith hesitated. "Because it increases profits." "Your directive, right?" "My directive." The words tasted bitter. He waved her off and turned to the window. Riverside. He hadn't visited that neighborhood in years. Maybe never. Deals like that were formulas to him, numbers on paper. Inputs and outputs. Nothing personal. But now, after Sam, everything felt personal. Later that afternoon, Leonard drove to Riverside unannounced. The neighborhood was old, worn in some parts but full of life in others. Children played in cracked sidewalks. Elderly women chatted from porches. The buildings were faded but lived in, loved in. They weren't numbers. They were homes. As Leonard stepped out of his car, people stared. It made sense. A man in a tailored coat stepping out of a luxury vehicle didn't belong there. But instead of ignoring the looks, he met them. He observed. He breathed in the reality of the lives he was interrupting. A girl approached him cautiously. She couldn't have been more than 8. "Are you the man who's knocking down my house?" she asked. Her voice was tiny, but the question hit him like a blow. I'm here to look at the project," he answered, caught off guard. She held a worn stuffed rabbit. Mummy says we'll have to move far away. I don't want to go. My school is here. My friends are here. Leonard didn't know what to say. He had never spoken to someone affected by his decisions so directly. He always heard complaints filtered through lawyers or reports, never from the trembling voice of a child. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Bella." He nodded. "I'm Leonard." She looked at him a moment, her eyes full of something he didn't deserve trust. "Can you stop it?" she asked. "I don't know," he said truthfully. Bella hugged her rabbit and stepped back. "My grandma says people forget there are real people in these houses. Please don't forget." Her words weren't poetic. They weren't rehearsed. They were simple, but they echoed inside him louder than Daniel's journal. He drove away, but the sound of Bella's voice stayed with him the entire night. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done in 20 years. He cancelled a meeting, then another, and another. His board was confused. Investors were furious. His assistant stared like she was witnessing a solar eclipse. Leonard didn't care. Instead, he drove to the one place he couldn't shake from his mind, Sam's cabin. The drive felt shorter this time, though the road was just as winding. When he arrived, Sam was outside, chopping wood, wearing the same calm expression as before. "You came back," Sam said, wiping his brow. Leonard held out the journal. "I thought I should return this." Sam took it gently. "And did you read it all?" "Just the last entry." Sam gave a small nod, as if that answer told him everything he needed. "Want some tea?" he asked. Leonard hesitated, then followed him inside. The warmth washed over him again, but this time it felt almost comforting. "Why did your son write that?" Leonard asked as he sat down. Sam poured tea into two mismatched mugs. "Daniel believed people were meant to lift each other up. He saw it as the only real purpose. He told me once that success doesn't mean much if it leaves others behind." Leonard stared into his mug. "I haven't lived like that. I figured." It wasn't said with judgment, just honesty. Sam sat down across from him. "You remind me of how I used to be." Leonard lifted his head sharply. "You?" Sam nodded. "I was ambitious, worked 16-hour days, missed birthdays, anniversaries, school recitals. Told myself it was all for my family, but the truth is, it was for me. My pride, my reputation, everything I thought mattered. What changed?" Sam's eyes grew distant. "Daniel got sick. And when he did, I realized something. Money couldn't buy me back the moments I ignored. Couldn't buy me the time I lost. Couldn't buy me the closeness I had pushed away." Leonard swallowed hard. "I don't have family like that anymore." "That's not the same as I can't," Sam replied quietly. "Distance isn't always permanent. Sometimes it's just unhealed hurt." Leonard didn't answer. He couldn't. Sam set down his mug. "Why are you really here?" Leonard took a deep breath. "There's a project of mine. People will lose their homes because of it. I never cared before, but now, I met a little girl, Bella. She asked me not to forget her." Sam nodded, as if this was exactly what he expected. "So don't forget her," he said simply. "Do something." Leonard opened his mouth. "It's not that easy." "It is," Sam answered. "You just don't like the cost." "The cost?" "Changing who you are." Silence fell thick in the cabin. Leonard stared at the wooden floor, at the cracks between the boards, at the imperfections that somehow made the place feel whole. "What if I don't know how to change?" he asked quietly. Sam leaned back. "Well," he said, "you can start by listening. Not to numbers, not to lawyers, not to your pride, but to people. You'd be surprised what the world sounds like when you stop talking. Long enough to hear it." Leonard felt something in him break open just a little. Enough for truth to seep in. When he left the cabin, he didn't feel like the same man who arrived. The cold air felt different, sharper, clearer. He got into his car, pulled out his phone, and made a call he had never imagined making. "Meredith, cancel the Riverside project, immediately. Then schedule a meeting with the community. I want to hear from them directly." There was silence on the other end. "Sir, are you sure?" "Yes, completely." When he hung up, he exhaled shakily. The decision felt like stepping off a cliff, but also like stepping toward something real. For the first time in years, Leonard realized he wasn't afraid of losing something. He was afraid of never finding what truly mattered. And soon, the consequences of his choice, the good and the bad, would arrive at his door. Because changing a life overnight was never simple. And the world was about to test his resolve.